All right, it seems like we're live from what I can tell. Just gotta change the description up a little bit. Today was everyone should know about discussing the new Nvidia card. Um, okay, let's see. Make sure everything's working properly. It says I'm live. All right, and we're gonna start off today by talking about the new PlayStation Classic that is being released in December. This was announced earlier this week, as far as I remember, and the PlayStation Classic is going to kind of take after what the Nintendo Classics were for, or same idea. They're trying to combat emulation, basically, is what more the idea is going to be. So they're releasing 20 plus titles with it. The confirmed titles are Final Fantasy VI, Tekken 3, Ridge Racer Type 4, Jump Flash, Wild Arms, and then there's more to be announced. It is going to cost $100 and released December 3rd. It comes with the classic controller with the joysticks, and it has a power and HDMI port in the back, so it'll work with the average TVs and more than likely probably play in 4:3 ratio rather than the regular 16:9. Especially since most of the games back then were 4:3, since their CRT TVs were the thing in the early 2000s, which is what the red, white, and yellow cables were for. It says it also has a USB cable, which I'm assuming. What is the USB cable for? Select across US and Canada. Each unit will come with an HDMI cable to connect to the TV, a USB cable, and 2 controllers for the local multiplayer with compatible titles. It is $100 USD or $130 Canadian. December 3rd, which I guess was the original release of the original PlayStation. This is the historic date. That's about all the information that is here. It's like the NES Classics or whatever Classics Nintendo has released, about 45% smaller. So not much more information is on that besides what it looks like and how much it costs. All right, also kind of a quick topic, but the next one is more on Facebook. Let's go over to here. So this one's an interesting and a little fun topic to talk about. If most of you haven't deleted your Facebook yet, now would be a good time, as Facebook wants to work with your banks to make Chatbox Messenger, which in return will mean that you're going to give your bank information to Facebook. This is especially a bad idea since the Cambridge Analytica scandal happened earlier this year, and 87 million Facebook users' personal information was sold to that analytic, which moved from the US to the UK and renamed itself. So they still have your data, and say this happens again, but with your bank information, not only do they have your personal identification, so they have your name to link to your bank account, but they also have your bank account information. So if you were afraid of identity theft, this could make it a lot easier for any sort of hacker, or if Facebook decides to sell your data to some random company that gives them a ton of money. So now it's up to you. If you want to delete your Facebook, now's a good time to do it. Show them that you don't want them to work with banks and get your bank information on Facebook Messenger. Let's see. It worked with American Express, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, which I'm not surprised about Wells Fargo there. Typically in the bad waters, from what I've heard, and they're not the best of companies. They had a data breach maybe a year ago, and they blamed their customers for it rather than taking blame for themselves. So that's a big no-no for me, especially if they're working with Facebook on that. as this is from The Verge, so I'm not taking it too factual, but from what I can see, it has links and such. Um, so hopefully Facebook doesn't screw this up, but with Facebook's track record, it's probably going to. That's really all the information I've got on it. Not a lot has been reported at this moment, and this was 4 days ago. So let's go on to the next one, which I have written down as the new Echo devices that Amazon released a couple days ago. They released a lot of them, and a little too much. Amazon Echo, or yeah, they call it Echo, is not exactly the best AI out there. From what I've seen, it's not exactly on par with Google, but then again, it doesn't get all the information that Google gets throughout its search engine. But they released new Echo Dots and Echo Plus. Both of them are fairly inexpensive. Well, maybe not the Echo Plus, but the Echo Dots on the par with the Google Home Mini, and the Echo Plus seems to be on the regular Google Home. So it looks like they're trying to compete head-to-head with Google on this. But what they also released was, I believe, 6 or 7 more devices. Google only has the Google Home and then the Google Max, which is some speakers that you can connect to your phone and use wirelessly. But Amazon over here decides to release quite a few more devices. So Amazon is also releasing an Echo Sub. It looks like a subwoofer that can be paired with the home audio devices. So more than likely your Echo, you can pair it with that, and when it plays music, it'll also play it through the subwoofer, which is kind of cool. I just don't know how well Echo actually works. They also have the Echo Input, which is supposedly on par with the Google Chromecast Audio, which I haven't personally used, but I have Chromecast. I'm assuming that this is just connecting it to wirelessly and then playing your music through whatever connected speakers are to the audio device. I don't know if the price is on par with Google's audio, but it says it's going to be $35. Next is Google Echo Show, which I think is really cool. This is going to go head to head with which I'm going to talk about next, which is Google's smart display that was leaked. This one's going to be far more expensive, but it's 10 inches. It's going to have it's going to show off your pictures and such, kind of like a picture frame. Have a camera built into it, but it's going to be about $230. Apparently, there was a previous device that I did not know about that was cost $230, so it's probably going to cost roughly the same. That'd be kind of cool. I haven't actually used one yet, but if Google does this properly, I might grab it, especially since Google's is $100 less and has a camera in it. The next one is, I think would be super useful for at least my setup, is Amazon Echo Link and Link Amp. What I have right now is the my TV hooked up to my my audio system, which is using, what is it called? The fiber link up to a converter to go to composite to the stereo system. This would get rid of that, as it would be a wireless connection. From what I can tell, it's gonna be way too expensive though, as mine cost about $30. $15. This one's gonna be $200 and $300. The Link is going to connect multiple audio in and audio out devices, while the amp is then going to allow you to control the audio directly from the device. That's a little expensive for it, but if you're already invested in the Echo or the Amazon system, then why not go for it? The next one's Alexa Guard. That's kind of cool from what I was reading, as it can tell you when, it can tell you when there's glass breaking, smoke, carbon dioxide detectors, motion detectors, and it can randomly turn lights on and off in your house to mimic someone being at home, which I think would be pretty cool if they had more devices and this wasn't from Amazon, because I am not a fan of Amazon personally. Now is also a Amazon Fire TV Recast, which is probably looks like it's a DVR to record live, which let's see, how would this even work? With DVR that can connect to the Echo Show, Fire TV devices and smartphones, but it doesn't requires an antenna. Okay, so it's basically going to capture the airwaves and allow you to record the free TV, which I think is only 60 channels is free, from what I remember. Um, it just isn't too bad. They come in HD as well. But if you don't want more than 60 channels and you want it for free, this would be a good device to grab, and then you just connect your Netflix or any sort of other streaming application to it, and it actually records it. I don't know how legal that is, but Amazon must have found a way to do it. It's going to go for $230. Next is a smart plug, which can be pretty cool. If this is compatible with WPA3, which was just announced the other day, which would be great. It wouldn't be a security issue, but if it is not compatible with the new WPA3 security, then it would work. It'd be a great feature. $25 per plug. That's a little expensive, but if you like your Alexa or Echo devices, this would work perfect for it. I'll go into a little bit later about what WPA3 is and how Wi-Fi security works, just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Just move this camera over a little bit. Okay. The next one is Echo Auto. I don't know how useful this truly is, as it's only voice. So basically you tell Alexa where you want to go, and it'll go to your phone, open up maps or whatever on your phone to do what you want it to. So it says it works with apps like Waze, Apple Music, and Google Maps. So that's kind of cool. It's going to be available by invite for $50 or $25, depending on what you want. I don't know what they're going to offer. I don't know what kind of devices they are, if the one's better than the other. I haven't really looked into it too much. So, might as well, let's see. So it's two different devices. Let's see what they have for different devices. Yeah, so like I said, it has 2 buttons on it, has 8 microphones, and I don't know why there's 2 different price differences. It doesn't really make much sense to me. But I don't really see that being very useful, especially with Google Auto in most of the cars, or like Tesla has something built in already. I don't see that being too useful unless you don't like Google Auto, or Android Auto, or Apple Auto. I believe that's what they called it. But moving on, the next device is the smart microwave made by Amazon. Honestly, I don't see how this is going to be useful. Either way, you're putting the food in the microwave, so you're right there as it is. So why do you need to tell it what to program? I don't know why this is useful unless it tells you when it's done by alerting your phone. But even then, most of the microwaves have a loud enough bell where you can hear it. So there's no point in that. As well as no point in this one is the Amazon Echo wall clock. Why do you need a smart clock? Is no point in it. It has LEDs to show timers on the clock face, but if it's still an analog, there's not much you can do to customize it. But it is $30. So it has a microphone to receive commands and LEDs to show the timers. What kind of commands are you going to give the clock? Maybe like an alarm, but even then, you can do it on your phone. So these 2 last products seem like very, very useless, and I wouldn't go after those. The last 3 products those seem pretty useless. The other ones could be pretty cool if you have use for them. I personally don't have use for any of these, as I use Google Home, and I have a stereo system already. This right here, I think I could use as the Echo Show. That'd be pretty cool. But other than that, no devices would work good for me. But on the same topic as smart devices, we have a leak today, or not today, but a couple days ago, specifically 4 days ago. Google's own smart display has leaked for $150. Now that would be pretty cool. I would get this over the Google Home, as long as it has one thing. So Lenovo has this little slider that you can slide over the camera and a button to turn off the microphones. If Google has that, this would be a good product. I would use this product. So let's kind of go over what we have for information. October 9th is Google's I/O, or Pixel announcements, whatever you want to call it, where they announce all the new Pixel devices, Pixel 3, Pixel 3 XL. They also have, I lost my train of thought, Google Pixel Book 2 And then this is supposedly going to be leaked, as well as a Google headset for the last replacement of last year's model. Android Authority is the one that reported on this first, saying that it's going to cost about $150. It's supposed to have a 7-inch display, so any of you had the Nexus 7, which was Google tablet back in 2013, roughly the same size, so the screen should be pretty good. Hopefully it's 1080p. Knowing Google, it'll be a pretty good quality product. Don't really have any other use for it. I don't think I would connect it to my Google Home as it is, as we barely use it, but the smart display would be pretty cool, especially if you have it in the kitchen and you want to have, what do you want to call it? If you want to make like, I'm losing my train of thought. So if you want to have like a cooking tutorials on there, or you want to have a display while you're working on your computer and you can have something going while your computer's off, it's good for things where you don't have any devices available. Like if you're cooking, you're not going to want to touch your phone, or if you're working on your computer's off, so you have to do that. But those are what would work for me. For you, it might be a little different, where you want to show off some photos, or have like a little stand for the showing off photos and then asking what the weather is, that sort of stuff. I think it'd be better than a Google Home, and it'd look better than a Google Home if you have the room for it. Says it's going to lack a camera, and let me see. Photos, yep, it's going to be photos. There's a physical switch to turn off the microphones. However, it seems that it won't have a front-facing camera. I feel like there'll be a one with camera, one without the camera, as seeing this little notch right here. But that's, who knows? We have to wait till October 9th, which is in 3 weeks. So we'll see what happens then. I will be reporting on Google I/O and what's going on. So just tune back in around the Saturday of October 9th. But moving on to a different section, since it's not a lot about the smart display, is Tesla Model 3. So we've been hearing a lot about this, about how fast it's been produced, and I've seen maybe 10 to 11 different Model 3s in the Tennessee area within Nashville itself. And this one is talking about the 5-star safety rating. And I watched the videos myself. I would recommend definitely looking up the videos, as it is super useful to see what it does in an accident. I've seen a lot of cars in accidents because I've looked it up before when I was doing research for my car I bought recently. And this is by far one of the best cars I've seen in an accident. The people within the cockpit are relatively undamaged, and the car does a good job at absorbing the shock. One of the videos shows the bottom of the car, where there's a large spring system and a shock absorbent system underneath it, where the bottom of the engine would typically be in a regular car. So it absorbs most of the shock within large springs. And let's see. So the Model X has also received the 5 stars. Model S is a 5.4 stars back in 2013. And a Tesla Model 3, 5-star rewarding on all sides, including the front and both sides, which is most of what you have to worry about, as some vehicles don't survive the side impacts and tend to crumple in and you get hurt from it, as well as front impacts. Most vehicles will not survive that, and typically you leave very critically injured, or you might pass away from those accidents. So it's good to see that a company is taking quality and safety into consideration when selling a vehicle, especially one that's at the $35,000 price range, which typically safety ratings at that price range aren't very good. I know everybody brags about the 5-star rating, but you have to look at what company gives it. So these ones are the NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And watching the videos, I definitely agree with them on that. So I would look up the videos if you can and see what you think. But I agree with them. Speaking of this company, I guess you'd say sister company, SpaceX, is sending a Japanese billionaire around the moon with, I believe it was 6 other artists. And this article goes on to talk about what sort of health effects it'll have. Now, going by the notes that I wrote down, it's going to take some training to get them used to space travel. So Be rigorous training, as we don't really have any way to counteract the way a spaceship takes off. So basically, in order to get a vehicle out of gravity, you have to be pushed off stronger than gravity. And in this instance, there'll be 3 times the strength of gravity in order to get the BFR off the ground, which is 3 Gs. Now, that can cause some strain on the heart, taking blood away from the head and other vital areas, causing them to pass out. And due to this being a 5-day adventure, that would not be very enjoyable for the tourists who are going to be going around the moon. Now, even if they train enough and they don't pass out from that, they better expect nausea, and they also better expect motion sickness. The motion sickness, from what they say, is caused from the lack of a horizon. So basically, when we are on Earth, we can feel the gravity on our feet and we can tell what's up and what's down. In space, you don't have any gravity pulling on you, so you don't feel up and down, and you're pretty much weightless, and you don't know what's up and down, which causes your body to kind of freak out a little bit until you get used to it. Nausea can go to sickness. You know how that goes. They said that there is medicine that they have to prevent this, which will cause more of an enjoyable trip, but also cause them to be fairly tired. But as a 5-day trip, they have more than enough time to recover from that. They didn't really talk about what it'd be like when it comes to landing, as I'm not too sure, since it's a self-landing spaceship and it's a large spaceship. But going from that, they also have another health risk, which is the radiation. Now, the Earth's, what do you want to call it, kind of grab an electromagnetic field around the Earth tends to block most radiation from the sun. They say that you get more radiation from a banana than you do from the sun on an average day. Now, they'll be outside of the Earth's magnetic field, which will cause more radiation doses. What they're afraid of is that if a sun flare goes off, they'll get too much radiation, which Elon hasn't really discussed about how they're going to work with that, as the International Space Station has a safe room that blocks out most of the radiation, but it's fairly thick, and they have other means of getting the radiation off these astronauts. Without more information, we don't know how that's going to work within the BFR. But if there is no sun flare, they should get about much radiation as you get it from a CT scan, which isn't all that much, and it will likely just be worn off within, I don't know, a month or 2. Besides that, there isn't much more about it, just that it's going to be about 5-day trip. They're going to experience weightlessness, and it's just going to cause them to go ill. So hopefully the training can help them prevent this, and there's only one way that it's called the Vomit Comet is what the nickname is. It's a spaceship that, at least a plane that goes high up in the atmosphere and drops to almost a vertical decline and causes you to go weightless for a good 30 seconds. Although that would help them know what it's like being weightless, it really won't stop them. Let's see. That's about all we've got from the BFR, and I'm not sure how they're going to land it, what parts of the ships are going to detach. Not really sure. We don't really have much more information about it besides that. But that's all the tech news I got. Next, we're more so going to talk about the new Nvidia graphics cards. These I do know a lot about, as I've been watching a lot of reviewers such as Linus Tech Tip, Gamer Nexus, and J2Sense, I believe is what it's called. I watch their reviews, as they're typically the YouTubers I go to get my tech information, especially the more advanced tech information. But I'd rather talk about this to you guys to help you make a decision if you want to purchase this graphics card, which is more so focused towards the more moderate to advanced user, or if you're looking at buying a new laptop or desktop and you're wondering what's a good graphics card. Now, the typical conclusion is that the RTX 2080 or any RTX devices are not necessarily worth it. One of the reasonings, which all 3 of them have said, is that the percentage, the percentage of the price increase to the percentage of the performance increase is not equal. From my notes, from what they've all said, is that it's roughly 30% faster than the previous generation, which has been that way since I believe it was the 600 series. It's been 30% faster, but the price increase is about 70% increase. So that's a little bit of a hike for a 30% increase. Most games, as you can see from the chart I have up here, will run off of a 1080 Ti, which has dropped down to $500. If you see, I wish you could see my finger, but if you look at the EVGA 1080 Ti, 61 frames per second. Now, look at the RTX 20 Ti Founders Edition, 74.1. Now, that is not a lot of increase, especially at 4K. You're not really going to notice the difference, especially as the average is 58, meaning that it could stay at 60. Oh, yeah. Oh, my bad. So yeah, 58 and 57. That isn't not worth it at all. Why are you going to pay $1,200 for a... Oh, actually, my bad. That's a 1080 Ti with a 2080. So the 1080 Ti is at 57.4 FPS in Far Cry 5, while the 2080 Ti is 74.1. That's still not a lot of an increase for a $1,200 purchase, especially with what they call it. The reference card itself is $1,200 for 2080 Ti. The prices for Asus or in EVGA's cards have not really been released yet, so I can't compare the prices. This right here, I have to give this credit. This is to Gamers Nexus, as you can see up here, and this is Far Cry 5 DX11 on max graphics. And unless you have a 900 series, it's not worth upgrading. The SLI, they did do an SLI. The SLI does double in performance on supported titles. To give you a little comparison, Linus Tech Tips did a benchmarking as well. Same game, same settings, and they got roughly the same FPS. So So we're looking at the Intel bench down here. Let me see and the 2080 Ti is about 74 FPS, 74 FPS, not overclocked. And if you look here, you can see the GTX 1080 Ti is 56 FPS as well. It seems to be about the same down here, about 49, 50 FPS. So I would not recommend purchasing this just yet until we can figure out if the ray tracing or RTX feature is actually worth it, as the only game that's supposed to have it is Rise of the Tomb Raider. I believe that's what it's called, and that one doesn't have the feature available. The patch is supposed to be released in October, so we still have 2 to 3 weeks before we know if the purchase is worth it. What Gamers Nexus said is that it is worth it if you're in a professional area that needs a more powerful graphics card, such as video editing, video game creations, or anything to do with that sort of media. Then it'll benefit you. If you are not and you're just a regular gamer at this current moment, you will not benefit it unless you're a 4K gamer that needs over 60 FPS. Other than that, you will not benefit from buying an RTX card, and they say to cancel your pre-orders while you can. Most of this news might not be unheard to you, but I suggest going with what they said and not spending the $1,200 on it. From what Nvidia RTX 2080 Ti. They also gave a real nice suggestion is to not get anything besides the 2080 Ti. If you look at the performance hit, the 2080 Ti is at 74 FPS. Now the 2080 is at 62 FPS, but look at the 1080 Ti is 61 FPS. There's not much of an increase. So if you have a 1080 Ti, unless you're going to buy a 2080 Ti, do not upgrade. Or don't upgrade in general, as it's only a 10 FPS increase. If you have a regular 1080, which I have this one right here, the 1080 FTW, and if you're going to upgrade to a 2080, maybe then it'll be worth it. As you can see, it's almost twice the increase of FPS. but it's also only if you can justify spending $1,200 on a card that should be released at $900 rather than $1,200 as it was last year. The 1080 was released at $900. Now, if they can provide that RTX is good, it does not lag, and that developers are going to support it, maybe then it'll be worth the money. But until we find that out, I highly doubt it's going to be worth the money upgrading now, as it's new technology and it has not been implemented into many games. I think they have 4 or 5 titles that's confirmed to release it. Battlefield 5, Rise of the Tomb Raider. I think the new Spider-Man's supposed to have it as well. And I'm not too sure about the other titles. So if you can justify spending the money, go for it. Otherwise, wait. Let's see, 1080 Ti. Where's Nvidia's website? Nvidia RTX 2080 Ti. Here we go. Shop all. Let's see what these prices are worth. What? Yeah, $1,200. My God. It's $1,200 for a graphics card. And if you are going to buy a 2080 Ti, do not get the Founders Edition. The Founders Edition is not worth it. Steve from Gamers Nexus did a comparison between the Founders Edition and EVGA's edition, live streamed, I think it was Wednesday, and he found that the Founders Edition could barely be overclocked, and it also barely kept up. The EVGA's, which is based off of the reference board, had more power to it than the regular Founders Edition released by Nvidia. So if you're going to buy a graphics card, go with the other brands, Asus or EVGA, or even I think Gigabyte has some, but I've heard issues with their coolers. So I would be careful with Gigabyte, as there's been cooling issues with that card. EVGA is a little bit more sci-fi looking, and then Asus is definitely a gamer's look. I'm going to probably go with the Asus one, as the overclocking is a little bit better and it has a larger cooler. But that's just me, if I ever get the money to do so, which at the moment I don't have the money, which is why you're still seeing the same overlay. I haven't actually purchased the Adobe software yet. So here I am, stuck doing what I'm doing with what I got. That's really all I had to discuss today. Wasn't really much that happened. Apple hasn't done anything significant. Actually, Apple did release the batteries. Well, not really. They didn't really release it. They had to submit it to the Chinese government in order to get it sold in China. But there is the batteries did come out. It was 2,300 milliamps for the XR 10R, and then the 10S was 2,700 and 2,900. No, 2,900 and 3,100 for the two batteries. So they're fairly low considering what phones have. Like my phone from 2016 has a 3,600 milliamp battery, and so on. So, well, when it comes down to my notes, it's about all I got. This being my third stream, I'm still trying to get everything together and understand kind of how to do this properly without rushing too much. I know towards the end. Okay. That's about all I got for the stream today. So I am going to exit the stream. Videos should be coming soon. I get paid next Friday, and I think next Friday is when I'll purchase the Adobe software and get stuff recording and released. Right now, all I have is the streams, and I might be doing a stream in midweek to live stream setting up Windows 10 for anybody that needs to know how to do it. I'm going to live stream how to set up Windows 10, and then later I'm going to release a video with more information on it, things that I might have forgotten within the stream. But for now, that's about all I got, and hopefully you guys have a good rest of the Saturday night. I'll be here next Saturday at 8 CST or 9 EST.